rough draft of history, and 10 years ago, the PoleStar Foundation instituted the PoleStar Awards to salute excellence in journalism. Started at a time when IT journalism was in its nascent stages, it took a vision to foresee IT and therefore IT journalism in India. On behalf of the PoleStar Foundation, I extend a very hearty welcome to all of you present here. May I now request Mrs. Shanti Balaraman, Mrs. Manju Jain, Mrs. Rama Sivaraman, Mrs. Kalpana Korwar, and Mrs. Len Konar to please light the lamp. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm now delighted to invite on stage the Tamil Nadu Bureau Chief for NDTV, Mr. Sanjay Pinto. Over to you, Mr. Pinto.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As you figured now, I've covered pretty much everything except business. Well-known American architect Frank Lloyd Wright once described television as chewing gum for the eyes. But 24/7 news channels with their dose or sometimes overdose of breaking news have turned that observation on its head. So I think we'll go by the order then. Mr. V. Balaraman, please.
Do we have a globalized business journalism in India? We do. And we don't. What really is the situation? Globalization must be the most ubiquitous word wherever you go today, next only to the three-letter word starting with S and ending with X. People who own Indian journals, Indian media, go out and buy journals in all the places of the world where Indian businessmen will have an opportunity to do trade, buy companies, or start branches. Thank you.
Good evening to one and all. It's a great opportunity. I see in front of me legends sitting here. Sometimes I get nervous. I'm always more comfortable sitting on the other side. It's a very, I must say, very thought-provoking subject. In my experience, there is a world of opportunity actually the globalization has opened up. Not only globalization, how the India has moved. You all know that in the last, say, 20, 25 years, how India has moved a center stage in the global economic space. This is the biggest challenge in the globalized environment. Today they are covering automobile and home manufacturing, IT, so many sectors, there are healthcare. Who would have imagined film industry today has become so organized? It is no longer a glorified thing, but today it's become a lot of people are raising funds from the market. Every business has become organized. Who would have thought healthcare? We are seeing so many success stories on the healthcare front. Thank you very much.
Mr. Pradeepto Mahapat.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's quite daunting to be talking about journalism and global journalism to a house full of award-winning journalists. One of the things about this globalization is, of course, competition. And one of the things competition begin to teach us is to say, don't compete. So I chose a nice one. And the question I have for my friends, with all reverence, is how often they press the magic word G to move into Google and search for what's the worldwide information competing with the piece of information they have just got in their hand. That's my wish for globalization for the journalist world. Thank you very much.
So, 3 journalists on the panel here. Naru, if you could please take the stage.
Actually, my heart sank when Balu started because he stole the thunder from me. The point I wanted to make, he already made, but later in retrospect, I thought to myself, well, maybe my point is not too bad. Balu's already made it for me, but let me add to that. I've been an entrepreneur for over 25 years, and I have a wish list from the business media. We see that today Sachin Tendulkar is an icon, and so is Mohammad Kaif, so is R.P. Singh, so is Irfan Pathan. And thousands of youth in this country dream of becoming a cricketer and finding a way to riches. India produces, therefore, better cricketers, There are more followers, and so the virtuous cycle continues. Unbelievable wealth being the attraction. There will be more IT businesses and startups coming in the country, and who knows, someday the next Google might come from India. Thank you very much.
Sushila?
Good evening. As Google was mentioned, I thought I must start by saying that my very first story I had to write on cement industry. There was no Google there was no computers, there was no internet. So I remember lugging to Cement Manufacturers Association, sitting there and looking at their dusty files and spending days and having to write within a deadline. So none of the bright young people want to come want to be a print journalist. Sanjay, everybody wants to be a TV journalist. So where do we find people from? Finally, media is also business. So let's think about these things.
Dr. Nirmala Prasad, please.
All my predecessors expressed the dream which they want business journalism to achieve. But my dream is that the day when a business journalist can give a true picture about the economic development of a particular state during a regime, to enable the electorates to choose the right government based on their performance in a vernacular medium. The industry can collaborate together and bring out a book or a grammar to train students in business journalism, which will definitely help the industry to get the right profile of the people. So with the right kind of industry academic interaction, I'm sure the industry will get the right kind of journalist, which will definitely improve will make us competitive in the era of globalization. Thank you.
Prune the next two. We'll call this segment Taking Stock, where we sort of discuss, have a candid discussion on the points raised so far. Ma'am, to start with you, you spoke about economic development of a state and the role of the vernacular medium. But let's say in Tamil Nadu, you have political parties owning channels, some newspapers as well. Many say the medium is the message. How do you think this would work here?
It's working. That is where the responsibility of the media comes. I think we have quite a number of media organizations which are very fair and just. And it is their responsibility. See, the common people expect the media to be a watchdog, to protect their interest. That is where the role of a media comes. And I'm sure we have quite a number of print media and the electronic media who are very, very objective in their communication and assessment of the party's performance and also communicating to the common man.
Do you get a call from your marketing office saying they're holding back ads?
Touchwood, I have never experienced. None of my editors or owners, they put any restriction on my beats coverings nor anything. Only thing is, I see a big shift happening in the news content. You see, there was a time in 25 years, I was just covering it as a B2B. Today, it's a B2C. I always keep in mind, I've been told to keep in mind what the reader wants. When I cover whether it's an industry story or any news break, always keep in mind the stakeholders. There are so many stakeholders. It could be a small businessman, a contractor, or a person who is just going to enter the market. So big shift is happening. So as Sushila said, no owner or no proprietor will agree to such journalism.
Breaking news concept. Just before I came, by the way, Mukesh Ambani went and met Sonia Gandhi, Prime Minister, that the Prime Minister has to, bring the two brothers together. I mean, do you really want to know this? I mean, this is, when we started, I know I'm sounding very ancient, but when we started, we wouldn't have really done stories like this.
May I now invite Mr. Arun Jain, founder, PoleStar Foundation, to felicitate the panelists, starting with Mr. V. Balaraman. Mr. V. Balasubramaniam, Assistant Resident Editor, The Economic Times. Mr. Pradeepto Mohapatra, President and CEO, RPG Enterprises. Mr. Narayanan, Director, 2020 Media. Dr. Mrs. K. Nirmala Prasad, Principal, MOP Vaishnav College for Women. Ms. Sushila Ravindranath, Editor, Deccan Chronicle. Last but not the least, Mr. Sanjay Pinto, Bureau Chief, Tamil Nadu, NDTV 24/7. Thank you, sir.